I stumbled onto it as a result of a Sarah McLachlan video. She talked about an interesting piece of persuasive writing. She shot a music video, and it was really bare bones. It was like obviously shot by somebody holding like a camera. She was on a stool playing the guitar, and it was interspaced with like raw text. And she says, normally a music video costs like $200,000. This music video cost $40. What did we do with the money? And then she set everything down and she said, normally a director costs $40,000. Instead, we took that money and we built a school in Kenya. And here's what was really rhetorically interesting about it. It wasn't shame-based or guilt-based, because we all know those, for the price of a cup of, look at this miserable child, look at this starving, fly-blown child with these hopeless eyes. And you look at it and you think, I am so awful. I am awful. Humanity is doomed. And when they showed it, these videos, the little clips that they put in, and I'm going to get freaking weepy. They said, here's this, we did this with it. And so now these girls get to go to school. And you see this girl there, and she's at a desk, and she's looking up, and she like raises her hand, and you can see there's this ebullient joy on her face. She is like welling up with excitement to be learning this stuff. And I just start to cry. And it's much better persuasion. Not you are awful. Why don't you be less awful? Price, you coffee drinking son of a, why don't you give some of your coffee money to this starving child? Instead, it's like, look at this awesome thing we did. And I went, I want to do that awesome thing. Now, I wasn't published. I didn't have any money. I was like broke as a part-time assistant lecturer at the university. But I brought that video in to show persuasive technique. I talked about ethos, logos, and pathos. They're proving their point. Look at how they're tugging on your emotions, but not being negative. And then eventually when I started realizing how many people read my blog as a published author, I thought, maybe we can do something with this attention other than stroke my ego. And the geeks like jumped on board. They stomped out to make the world a better place. Any piece of writing, you need to know what you're doing. Well, you don't need to. But if you want to do it well and do it consistently well, you need to know what you're trying to accomplish and who your audience is, really. And you need to know effectively what genre you're writing in. Now, I'm not talking about like fantasy, sci-fi, romance, Western. A blog is a genre of writing. Effectively, here's how I would teach it in class. I say purpose, audience, genre. And so if your purpose is you bought a Bose speaker and it crapped out and you're pissed that you blew $250, your purpose is probably writing to Bose and getting your money back or a new speaker. Your audience, it's Bose. Your genre is persuasive letter. And so if you mess any one of those things up, if you try to write them an argumentative essay, that's not going to work. If you complain to your parents, that's not the right audience. They didn't buy, it isn't their speaker. And if you forget your purpose, if you write to them and you say, boy, I love your speakers, they're really great. And you talk all about how much you love their brand and you love their stuff. And then at the end, you're like, by the way, I bought a speaker and it kind of broke. That's not right either. You got to get in there and you say, you screwed this up. Your product did not give what it promised. Give me something back. And then how do you achieve that? I always teach persuasive letter in all of my classes back when I did teach all the time, because it gives you real clear focus in terms of who your audience is. Once your audience gets bigger, like who is my audience for this blog? There's actually a dozen audiences for this blog. There's people who have donated before and they're coming back. There's people who know about the fundraiser but have never donated, but they might be curious. There's people who might come into the fundraiser not even knowing who I am. Those are all different audiences, and I've got to think about who they are and which one of them I want to target the most. And then what am I trying, each one of those audiences I have a different purpose for, either to tease them in further or to sell them permanently. And so it gets extraordinarily complex. The hardest thing is just writing, is just doing the writing. Not even doing it well. But that is hard too, because odds are if you're doing writing, you're going to write for a long time for no reward. For only because you're either hopeful of something good happening in the future or because of the joy in your heart at the simple act of practicing your hobby. Hope or joy. And those are good emotions. The problem with hope, and I talk about this a lot when I talk about writing, is that some people are like, I'm going to write this book and it's going to be awesome and I'll sell 1 million books and I'll be famous and rich. And sometimes it happens, right? But I think the stat is out of every 250 people that start writing a novel, only one finishes it. And out of every 250 people that finish a novel, only one sells it. And out of every 250 people that sell a novel, one does it as their day job. Everybody else, it's like a little side project. You moonlight, you write when you have the time, because the money isn't there for the most part. A blog I can write in 4 hours. Faster people can write a blog in an hour. You write it, you publish it, people read it, they leave comments, they give you feedback, they like it, they retweet it. That's, there's your feedback, there's your serotonin bump. If you're working on a novel, you sit down and you write for 8 hours and you've written a couple of pages. And that now all you have to do is do that another 200 times and you will have the start of a book. You do that 200 times, then you have a draft, which you will have to seriously revise for another 6 months at best. And then you can try to sell it. If you're insane, you can maybe do this in 8 months. But that's insane. That's like all your free time. That's like really being driven. Now, it's easier because you typically only do it because you enjoy it. You love your writing. But that's the joy. People who do it because they're driven or they're hopeful, what happens is they might write and then things don't go so well or the revisions don't go well. And then they get angry because for them, if they are published and successful, they've succeeded. And anything less than that is failure. And when you work hard towards something and fail, it makes you resent it and it makes you bitter and it twists you up inside. I worked on my first novel for 14 years before it was published. I was not a hopeful writer. I knew the math. I knew that it would never get published, especially because my book was way too long. It's a beginning of a trilogy. It's all the things that I shouldn't do. It was first person. Nobody did that. It didn't have a traditional plot structure. It was a hot mess, And so I'm like, but I enjoy writing. And so I would do it. And I would write. And so every time I wrote and I was happy, that was my level of success. And then if a friend read it and liked it, I'm like, yay, that's gravy. That's above success. And that's why I managed to keep doing it in little bits and pieces over 14 years. The best thing about writing is you sit down and at the end of it, there is something that before you made it, it was not. And we all draw on experiences, on literature. We're all influenced. We all steal, for various meanings of the word. We borrow, we allude, we give homage, But really, it's the creative thing. I have made this. What's also the best is when you get to share that with people, and they come up and they're like, "Oh, I love this character. Oh, I love this scene. I couldn't believe it when this happened." And I feel like I should be cooler, I feel like they come up and they're like, "Oh, this is the best." I'm like, "Yeah, baby, I'm glad you dig it." But the truth is they come up and they're like, They're like, I couldn't believe it. I love this character. I'm like, oh, I love that too. And I get excited with them because of course I love this world. Of course I love the characters. If you like doing it, do it. People will give you advice. Some of it is going to be good advice. Some of it will be bad advice. And some of it is good advice that just doesn't work for you. You have no idea which is which. You think you do, and you are wrong. As soon as you think you have something figured out, you stop learning and you die mentally. So, you got to do two things. Somebody will come up to you and they'll say, maybe you might want to try this with your writing. Maybe you want to try to outline. And you're like, oh God, outlines are the worst, which is what I've always said, right? And I hate the concept of doing an outline. It feels like it chokes me creatively. And people would say, so do you outline? And I go, no. I go, sometimes I make a bulleted list, I think, oh, I want to do this in the future. I'll make a bullet point. And then I'm like, ooh, in this bullet point, there's a few things I want to remember. I'll make a few sub-bullet points. A bulleted list with sub-bullet point list. That's an outline. And I'm like, I am an outliner sometimes. If only I'd learned that 10 years ago, it might have saved me a ton of time. I was so sure of that it kept me from learning this good trick. So when somebody gives you a piece of advice, when a writing teacher says, write a sonnet, and you're like, oh God, nobody writes in iambic pentameter anymore. Oh, only 12 lines. Why can't I do as many lines as I want? Shut up. Shut your hole, and you write a sonnet. And if it sucks and you really legit hate it and you don't learn anything, great, okay, fine. But you tick it off your list. But honestly, you'll probably learn something just by trying something new. The more new things you try, the more potential you have of getting more tools in your toolbox. And the more tools you have in the toolbox, you're building your craft. Because anybody can get lucky. You can sit down, you write a poem, you're like, yeah, that's great. And then you sit down, you try to write another poem, and it's awful. Your craft, that's where your craft is useful. And you go, I wonder how I can make this not awful. And then you look through your tools, and if all you've got is a screwdriver, you're screwed. I didn't intend that as a pun, but yeah, whatever. You can't build something with just a screwdriver. As you grow in your craft, and as you write more, and as you talk to more writers, eventually you get a pry bar, you get a hammer, you get a wrench, you get like a set of Allen wrenches. Allen wrenches are going to be just freaking useless for 98% of the things you ever do. But there's going to be one time when nothing but an Allen wrench will do. And so you better have it in your toolbox. And you won't if you're so sure that you have everything figured out. You'll never get a chance to get that. And if you're going to put all of the time into writing something, you should have something to say. Hopefully something good, something that'll make the world a better place.